As Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky was broadcasting news of successful counterattacks in the Donbas, a series of powerful explosions shook Ukraine's capital Kyiv overnight. Smoke billowed over the city, whose mayor Vitaly Klitschko confirmed that the first attacks on the city in weeks had indeed taken place. Klitschko said missiles had hit unspecified infrastructure targets but caused no deaths. The attack comes just as life in Kyiv had begun to resemble a kind of normality after Russia decided to concentrate its forces in the east.
A massive fire tore through a container depot in Bangladesh's southeastern town of Sitakunda. Now, the blaze has killed 38 people and injured more than 300 others so far. The fire broke out at an inland container storage facility, which is about 40 kilometers from the major southern port of Chittagong. A number of chemical containers exploded as firefighters tried to put out the blaze. Eyewitnesses said that the blast engulfed people who had been battling the fire and shook residential buildings several kilometers away. The death toll is expected to rise further. About 40 firefighters and 10 police officers who had reached the accident site also suffered injuries as there was another explosion while they were carrying out the rescue work.
A chilling confrontation in the skies over the disputed South China Sea when a RAF plane was menaced by a Chinese strike fighter. On May 26, a RAF P-8 surveillance plane was on a routine exercise in international airspace over the South China Sea when it was intercepted by a Chinese J-16 jet fighter, which drew very close alongside and released flares. The warplane then accelerated, cut in front of the RAF jet and deployed a cloud of aluminium strips known as chaff, some of which entered the Australian plane's engines. 1/3 of the world's shipping carrying $6 trillion worth of goods passes through the South China Sea each year, a waterway where Beijing has illegally occupied and militarised a series of small islands.
North Korea on Sunday fired 8 short-range ballistic missiles towards the East Sea. According to South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff, some of the missiles were fired from the Sunan district of Pyongyang, where the regime has its main airfield. The distances flown range from about 110 kilometers to 670 kilometers, and their altitudes roughly 25 kilometers to 90 kilometers. Sunday's launch came just a day after South Korea and the U.S. wrapped up a 3-day joint naval exercise in waters off Okinawa, in a demonstration of the strength of their alliance and their joint defense capabilities. Other missile tests by the North this year have also come after allied military drills or talks.
Where the NATO and its allies are all set to hold military drills in the Baltics. And it's not like the last year, but 30 times bigger. The Baltops 22, as these exercises have been dubbed, will be a military operation that will be carried out in the Baltic Sea by the NATO nations and their allies. And this year, a total of about 16 nations will be participating. 14 of them are part of the NATO military alliance, and 2 are said to be very close partners, Sweden and Finland, who've now applied to join the NATO military alliance. Now, according to reports that have come in, there will be at least about 45 ships and 76 aircrafts that will be a part of this military exercise that will be carried out.
Scuffles with police as opposition politicians lead protests against President Kais Saied. He's dissolved parliament and replaced the Electoral Commission in Tunisia. Now he wants a referendum next month to change its constitution. Critics say his changes amount to a coup. At the headquarters of the Electoral Authority, more scuffles with police. Saied has banned polls and political advertising and told international election observers they are not welcome. The protesters don't believe the vote in July will be free or fair. They say Saied has too much power and democracy is in danger.
Police were already on location and they observed several active shooters shooting into the crowd. There were hundreds of individuals just enjoying South Street, as they do every single weekend when this shooting broke out.